Welcome back, and today we're looking at the Tuya Knives Caladan. This is designed by Skelton, and this particular version is actually in stock. That's why I want to get this up for $250, and they also have one with a hand rub satin finish, black tie, and raindrop carbon fiber for $280. We have a nice full-size knife here at 8.5 inches long with a 3.65-inch blade, so it's going to be able to fit your large, extra large hands just nicely because you have a 4.1-inch grip area, so nice and roomy. As you can see, I got a good bit sticking out right there. It's got this beautiful blade on this one. I absolutely love it. This particular one of the jig is all bead blasted. Not my favorite finish, but I did carry this with the sweaty shorts on yesterday, and I had no issues with corrosion so far. I do keep it cleaned up after I get done. Blade steel on this one is CPM S90V. And it came with a nice toothy edge on it, which that's something I like on my S90V because it's a very aggressive cutter with a toothy edge, I find. Being you have a low drop point, this is actually the center. It's sitting below the center line of the pivot, so you're going to have a little bit beefier tip right there because of it dropping down to the tip. So it's going to be a little bit thicker at the tip, but that's good for doing, if you need to do some like boring or something like that. I wouldn't really do light prying, but you could if you wanted to, I'm sure. You do have a small rule of functional jimping. It doesn't grab, super tight, but I think it's probably because of this bead blasted finish. It grabs enough for me, and I'm not really a person who cares about jimping at all. Sterile blade on this side, and you have the Tuya logo here, and Jim's logo is on the pivot. Mine's just turned. You do have a sharpening tool. However, this is probably one of my pet peeves on this knife is it doesn't clear the plunge. You can already kind of see it making a smile back there. However, yeah, right here too. It's not a big deal for me, at least. I don't find it to be a big deal because the stop pin's up here in the front. If I wanted to open that up a little bit before I sharpened it, I could easily do that. This has a flat grind on it. Comes down to about 18,000. So I was kind of shocked being that it's such a low grind. I did not expect it to be at around 18,000. Now from here to here, it's about 18,000, and it gradually goes up to, I think, 23,000 at the tip. Why don't we see how that performs? The knife came with an extremely good edge out of box, and it felt like it had a pretty good bit of toothiness to it, like it was maybe an 800 grit edge, which in my opinion S90V does the best with. A nice toothy edge, and it keeps that tooth for a good while. So far comfortable, but this is just light duty cutting. Hopefully it'll continue. Love this blade shape, probably my favorite blade shape as of late. Now here we're going to test the ergos and how the edge wants to bite into this piece of birch. And I'm going to say right off the back, I don't know if y'all can see that bow. This is a very terrible piece of wood to do this testing on because I'm not the best at doing this. So it's not the knife, it's me. Once I kind of get the hang, you can see it. I'm just wanting to take nice big chunks out of it. And the handle is absolutely excellent. Nice contouring, even on the clip. Didn't feel any of that. No hot spots. Very, very comfortable. It's just me fumbling around with this dang piece of wood, but did great in the ergo department, and the edge felt really good as well. Like I said, really good bite to that edge. Like I said earlier, I love this blade shape. It's so versatile because that low tip to the center line, it makes that belly very gradual. So it's excellent for doing these cutting tasks on a flat cutting surface. Now, being that this tip's a little bit lower than you see most drop points, or this drop point, it's going to be thicker at the tip for more strength. So it's not going to be as slicey doing tip leading cuts, but as long as you keep it sharp, it'll be just fine. It still has a very good aggression to that edge. You know, this 12-ounce denim will let you know right away if there's no toothiness to the edge, and it powered through it like nobody's business. Comfortable in the pinch grip, and we'll see how that edge is once we get to the sisal rope in just a second. Now we move to the 1/2-inch twist sisal rope, and yeah, it still has a nice good bite to the edge, but you can kind of feel that extra thickness. I tested 5 knives before this one that day, and it definitely, that extra thickness, it moves through material a lot quicker when you have a thinner geometry. But like I said, this is still sharp and it's getting through it just fine. I also have a blister on my hand from testing all those knives before this, so if it looks like I'm struggling, it's not the knife. The knife is still nice and sharp, good bit of bite, and it's passing through it fairly simple. I'm just trying to maneuver my hand around so I don't cause any extra friction to the area where I got a blister, because my hands blister up pretty easy since my accident. It ends up making 41 cuts before we run out of rope, and it could have definitely done more than that. All right, let's take a look at this edge. Now, I did use this knife a little bit after the testing, so yeah, still has a really good edge on it. That's what I figured. Awesome. All right, let's close it up and take a look at the deployment and the action. It's riding on caged ceramic ball bearings and perfectly designed flipper tab. It's canted back a little bit. You do have some nice jimping there that does grab a hold of the finger. It's nice and comfortable, and one of the stars of the show on this knife is the action. I know Jim likes a stouter detent, so I was kind of worried about this being too strong for me, but it's dialed perfectly. Just watch this action. This thing comes out with authority and nice and drop shut on that closure. Very well tuned detent. I don't have any problems with my finger on the lock bar because of the where the pocket clip lands. That's where my finger sits pretty much. And yeah, very, very nice action. It's a very addictive action, and they were able to make it a stout detent without making it to where it's hard to break the detent. For me, those type of detents just mess with my hands, but this one is a-okay. We talked about the ergos and the cutting, but we'll kind of touch over them really quick. They got nice subtle milling on the contouring, on the titanium frame, and they melted the edges and contoured the edges on this pocket clip. It completely stays out of my palm. I know it's there, but it's not uncomfortable in the least. And the swell right here really fills out where these two fingers are. And it was super, super comfortable doing the wood shaving. I was able to put a lot of pressure into this, and it was nice and comfortable the entire time. So awesome ergos on this one. Now to the handle area, you had that cool logoed pivot right there, Jim Skelton's logo, Skelton Bladeworks. And this particular one has the faux bolster with the jig titanium scales. I love it. Gives it a little bit of extra texture from where the insides of those are. Very nicely done. Now, here comes my second pet peeve, and I'll try to pop it up on the screen now. You got the logoed flat head right here on the pivot. And on this side, you have a T8. Now, the pivot itself is D-shaped, so it's a captured pivot, but the D-shaped is not in my titanium scales, so it does free spin. Now I took this apart, and the way you can do it, if it does free spin on it, meaning you can't stop it on this side, is put a little pressure on the blade or push it ever so slightly to where it's kind of causing it to bind up right there, and it'll allow you to unscrew it rather easily. That's, it's not a big deal when you have, Torx heads on both sides. And they already had the pivot, so I don't really understand why they didn't do that. But it wasn't the end of the world for me. Like I said, I was able to easily get it apart. They also used T6 right here. Of course, I would have liked to see it T8 throughout. I like how they did this hidden lanyard right here. It just looks like an integrated portion of the backspacer. Like, it doesn't even look like a lanyard hole, but you can see the hole in there. Nicely done. The titanium backspacer is flush, no high spots. Very, very well done from Tuya. The blade is perfectly centered, as you can see there. And being that this comes up, you don't have to worry about your finger getting caught on that tip. Flip it over. You have a 3D mill titanium pocket clip that is done excellent. Hopefully that's coming across, but they did an excellent job with contouring. They even knocked off this point right here so you wouldn't have a sharp point on the tip of that clip. It stays away from the lock bar, and it stays away from the lock bar cutout. Excellent. Now, I must say, whenever I first saw this in the closed position, this extra portion right there kind of threw me off. I'm a little OCD when it comes to symmetry, and I almost didn't try it out. So I'm so glad I did, though. It is pretty nice whenever it's in the open position. This portion right here covers the flipper tab so you don't see it in the open position. It looks a lot cleaner. And you got a nice guard whenever you're holding it as well, because that comes up, you know, same size as the flipper tab. You do have a stainless steel hardened lock interface. There is some skeletonization in there on the top and bottom, so they did everything they could to lighten this up as much as possible. Let's check a weight first in grams. 143.8 grams or 5.07 ounces. You know, and that is a little bit heftier, but it's a bigger blade, and I wore it today in lightweight gym shorts and had no issues. All right, let's take a look at the lockup. It's sitting, I'd say, at around 40%. And when I say this thing is rock solid, no movement in any direction, very, very tight lockup. The access to the lock bar is done excellently. You can see this is cut out a little bit further, and some useful texturing right there. It actually does its job, grabs the thumb without being painful or anything, and it's very easy to disengage that lock bar. Quick size comparison with the Spyderco PM2 and the Para 3. Hogue, Ritter, RSK, and Mini RSK. Ontario Rat Model 1 and 2. I would say the Rat 1 is the best overall size comparison as far as length goes. All right, let's go back over the nitpicks real quick. Like I said earlier, sharpening trawl, I'd like to see that extended a little bit, but I can fix that myself, so it's not that big of a deal. I don't like bead blast that much, but this was the only one available at the time. There is available a hand rub satin finish one that, you know, you wouldn't have any corrosion issues. But like I said, I didn't have any so far, and I did sweat on this yesterday. Now, this is definitely just a nitpick, but I would have loved to see this pocket clip, like that screw right here, be here into that body screw. It could have moved it all the way up here, but then it would have kind of changed the design. But, you know, I'm okay with this. I think it's an attractive looking butt of the knife, so it didn't really bother me any. I can promise you, look, go all the way up to right there. And I think my biggest gripe with the knife was the having the D-shaped pivot, but it's not captured into the titanium scales. I don't really understand that. Like I said, like on the Tuya NV4, this one is not an issue because you have Torx on both sides. This one you only have Torx on one side, and you know, maybe they just don't want you to take the knife apart. So I don't know. But it's still doable. Like I said, just put a little pressure on the blade and you can unscrew it without a problem. So overall, my final thoughts and conclusion, I absolutely love the knife. Do I recommend it? Yes. If you like the overall aesthetics of the knife, it's super comfortable in hand. It has very, very snappy action. It's well made. It looks good, I think. It's got premium steel at S90V, and it's only $250. Yeah, done really well. It still has an excellent edge, and I've used this quite a bit. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.